What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Renegade Gold Standard podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Matt Llewellyn.
And good friend, by the way.
And good friend. We're here to recap a very, very ugly loss. But before we get into all of that, if you're watching on Twitter, head over to youtube.com/49ers Hive. Join from there so we can see and interact with your thoughts. We can't see anything through Twitter, so we're not ignoring you. youtube.com/49ers Hive. Join from there. Matt, this was a close game, and believe it or not, we all saw the Niners were in the lead at one point, and then the Chiefs just totally blew the doors off. What happened? What do you make of this loss?
The same thing always happened. You give this team enough time and enough rope, they're going to hang themselves. And, you know, I've defended Kyle for as long as I can, but he has to be culpable in a lot of this too. It's still the Jimmy Garoppolo screw-up show for sure. He had the trifecta today: 3 turnovers, an interception, a fumble, and a safety. So the quarterback play is atrocious. I mean, again, I pointed out a video, Alex Rollins on YouTube. Go and check that video out. He kind of outlines how Jimmy Garoppolo only throws to one spot on the field and how Shanahan's been kind of trying to work around that, but how that can be limited after a while. And it just shows up today. The big thing that bothers me about this team today is that they were undisciplined. They didn't look like they wanted to be there. And there was no heart, no fight in this team. And if there was one thing that we knew about this team from the last couple of years, is that they always played their asses off. And today they did not do that. They got dog walked. They got mollywopped. They got smashed by the Kansas City Chiefs. And I knew that the Chiefs were probably going to win this game, but I expected more fight. This was pathetic. Absolutely embarrassing.
It was. And like I said, they were in the lead at one point. They came out like the 49ers always seem to do. First 2 drives look fantastic. And then after that, it's like Kyle Shanahan's like, wow, I really hope that 10 to 13 point lead that I built in the first couple of drives, we can sustain that for the rest. And we were saying it in the group chat immediately. Field goals are not going to win this game. And that was ultimately the difference up until the Chiefs just totally screwed this game over. But when the Niners would get 3, the Chiefs would get 7. And outside from, I think, 2 drives before garbage time, the first and last drive of the first half, the Chiefs scored a touchdown. I'm pretty sure on every possession they had the ball. This defense, Matt, we were told and we were observing, appeared to be like an all-time great, historically great. What happened today? Was it as simple as they're missing injured people, or was there more to it?
I think there's a little more to it. I think some of the injuries did kind of hold them up. But there's a multitude of things. I think today was a perfect example of experience and what that can do for you. And when you have an outstanding play caller like Andy Reid, a brilliant offensive mind, I think he just bullied around an inexperienced DeMeco Ryans and the defensive scheme. And he had an answer for everything that DeMeco wanted to do. And I mean, is it super surprising given that it's DeMeco Ryans' second year as a defensive coordinator? Not really. What's really more surprising to me is Fred Warner playing like absolute dog shit. Fred Warner is not playing up to that contract right now. I mean, he had another blown coverage where he completely vacated his zone and just allowed a touchdown catch. I mean, that was definitely on him. It's like there was no reason to chase Kelsey out of your zone. You need to hold your zone and pass him off to the next guy, and he didn't do that. And that allowed Juju Smith-Schuster to get behind him and run in for a touchdown. So there's a lot of sloppiness on this defense. That part of it is on the coaches as well. It's a very undisciplined team. And I think that Andy Reid took advantage of that and took advantage of the fact that DeMeco Ryans just doesn't have the same experience that he has.
Yeah, that very well could be it. It's just so unfortunate to see guys like Fred Warner, guys like Mooney Ward, who have typically played well. I know Warner's kind of been in a down year. Mooney Ward was looking like a complete lockdown corner, and we were thinking this game might be bad. But do you think he rushed back?
I do. And like I said yesterday when we did our preview show, I would give him an extra week. It's the second time he's been dealing with the groin. And at one point he went down today, and I think he tried to tough through it. And I think that came back to bite him. He got beat deep, and it just didn't look like he was running very fast. I'm going to give him a little more pass. I think he was trying to play because he was hurt, and that's part of the problem. But, Fred Warner has none of that excuse. So I do think that it gets to a point though, if you feel like you want to play, but it's obvious you're hindering the team, you gotta like pull your own self out, and he didn't do that. I think it became more complicated because of the Diamador Lenore injury. I don't know that they could have afforded to take him out because they didn't have enough guys that were active. So yeah, tough, man, way around.
Yeah, I agree. I was a little surprised to see that he wasn't inactive. I thought he was going to miss this game. At the same time, I knew he was going to try his hardest because it's his former team. He probably wanted to play well against them. But I was surprised both him and Hufanga played. Hufanga went down early with an injury. I believe they classified it as a shoulder injury. He was able to return. I don't know if Juice ever came back. He snapped his finger. Did you see that picture?
He did. Yeah, he
did come back? Okay, good, man.
I posted that picture, brother.
That's right. Yeah, what a beast in him. He needs to get the ball more. Every single time he has the ball, he makes a good play. I want to talk about accountability. And there was somebody in the chat who said it to start the show. We wait until Kyle Shanahan finishes his press conference before we go live so we can get kind of the recap. And he was asked, do you feel you need to do a better job of holding your players accountable or something of the sort? And he goes, oh, they do a pretty good job of holding themselves accountable. We have hard Mondays where everybody kind of goes over what they did wrong. What the hell kind of answer is that, Matt? Your team just got embarrassed for the second straight week, whether you want to blame it on injuries, whether you want to blame it on whatever, sloppy mistakes, mental mistakes. 2 blowout losses, 2 straight weeks. You're at home. Does Kyle Shanahan need to step up in the accountability game and say, you did this shit wrong. You did this shit wrong. You need to do it better. This is unacceptable. That's the first time I think I've ever heard him say that was unacceptable. What's going on?
Yeah, he definitely needs to do a better job. You know, you can look like you can be a player coach, but when you break that word down, there's still coach in there. At the end of the day, if your players aren't getting it done, don't play the, oh, we hold each other accountable thing. No, you're the head coach. You need to hold the players, your other coaches, yourself accountable, and it starts with you. And this is just more of the pass the buck shit that goes around with a lot of the 49ers. It was such a breath of fresh air when Trey Lance was like, I have to do this. I have to do that. And he's literally the only guy outside of maybe Nick Bosa that does that. You know, it's Jimmy Garoppolo, the coach, Kyle Shanahan, you know, even if you talk to John Lynch or whatever, it's always well, there was this. Well, there was that. Well, we do this, we do that. It's complete and utter bullshit. And I think that the players aren't buying it as much as they used to. There's no hustle, there's no heart, there's no fight in this team when things are going wrong. And I think somebody posted in the chat earlier too, a tweet that's like Kyle Shanahan is 1-29 when his team trails by 3 points. Completely unacceptable. They're complete front runners.
I just wanted to show this. This is hilarious.
They're complete front runners, and that starts with the head coach. And there needs to be some answers for this. This is maybe not the worst loss because the Super Bowl's really hurt, but this is probably the most embarrassing loss of the Shanahan era, and they got to get it solved quick because they have the Rams next week. You have a Chargers team coming off a bye. What are you going to do?
It really is unfortunate. Considering how the game went and how it started, they go around, they get the field goal, they get the touchdown. You know, it was an interception.
Pick, by the way.
Yeah, great interception, great effort by Hufanga, Gibson, which is they've been a hell of a duo this year, but it still wasn't enough. And we were saying that 10 points is not going to win this game. Field goals are not going to win this game. Yet Kyle Shanahan, he was asked, did you ever consider going for it on 4th and 3, 4th and 4? Oh, what drive was it on? The first one? Yeah. What drive was on the third one? Yeah. No to both. What does it matter what drive is it on if you didn't consider it on either, Kyle?
Right.
It's always been kind of this lack of aggressiveness, and he just hopes whatever lead he builds, they're able to protect it. And they have not been. They almost never do. So he takes his foot off the gas. At the same time, how much of this is on Jimmy, Matt? Because there were plays, including the muff punt that they got basically 1st and goal, 3rd and goal. Jeff Wilson Jr. is wide open for a touchdown, and Jimmy just throws a Christmas present to the Kansas City defense. So how much of this is actually on him? Jimmy, that is.
On On Jimmy? I mean, a lot of it. We've talked about it week in, week out. How much food does Jimmy Garoppolo leave on the table? And I guarantee you, when the all 22 comes out and you look at this, there's going to be a ton of stuff that he left on the field. All of his great passes were inside the numbers yet again. And there was just a lot of misses. It's getting old. It really is at this point. I'm to the point where if the 49ers can't pick up victories, I'd say save the cap space and bench Jimmy for Brock Purdy, because all you're doing is you're getting the same result, but the difference is a 7th round rookie versus a 9th year pro, and you're talking about an extra $8 to $10 million against the cap. So if we're gonna lose anyway, I'm tired of seeing it from Jimmy Garoppolo. The same shit week in, week out, over and over and over and over again. It's not good enough. It's not good enough, and I'm tired of it. I'd rather roll Trey Lance out there in a full foot cast and let him from a wheelchair throw passes than watch the shit anymore. I'm sick of it.
He'd probably be more mobile than Jimmy the way he is. He just sits there. And we said it a million times today. Why doesn't he ever just throw the ball away?
Right. He never throws the ball away, and it's pathetic. Brock Purdy threw the ball away twice, which is more than Jimmy's ever thrown it away in his entire career. I'm sick of Jimmy dropping back, petting the fucking ball like it's a dog, right? Rolling out, trying to make moves. You're not athletic. You're a 6'2" white dude with no athletic ability whatsoever. That all left when your knee got blown out against these same Kansas City Chiefs 4 years ago. And he's making stupid mistakes. They're dropping him back short drops. He's throwing quickly. He doesn't work through his progressions. On that play to Jeff Wilson Jr. that you were talking about, he never looked away from the left side of the field. If he just glances, he would have saw Jeff Wilson open and just throw it right to him. I'm sick and tired of Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay, to the point where I don't care what he does for the rest of the season. I want him gone. Fuck you, Jimmy. Fuck you.
I can't disagree with that anger, because the 49ers Matt Rant. Yeah, what angers me the most is with a competent quarterback, this is a totally different game. The Niners are at the very least still in it in the fourth quarter, not oh man, 3-0. Oh, interception. Oh, he missed a wide open receiver yet again. And it just continues. And
tell him how you really feel, man.
Hunk Fat says what sucks is he'll probably play well next week versus the Rams. That's there. I think Jesse from Last Second Sports. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing or got the name wrong. He has the Jimmy G cycle where it's, plays poorly, underdog mentality, feels underrated, plays well, and it just continues. It can always continues. Bolts Nation is asking, can we hire Matt on the staff? We need to hire Matt on the 49er staff just to give Matt rants every day. I chew them out.
Just make me a quality control coach. I'll straight up be like, hey, that was shit.
Yeah. It was really bad. There was a question here. Where did Debo go? I mean, the Kansas City defense probably focusing in on him, like the 49ers defense should have focused in on Travis Kelce, but for some reason they just decided we could probably single him. He'll be fine. They were not fine. Travis Kelce had his way with the 49ers defense all day long. There was one play where they finally get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. He throws a duck in the air, and they just stand there and watch Kelce jump up and grab it.
Yep. He boxed them all out like he was a rebounder in the NBA.
Yeah. I'll never understand why defenders don't just time the jump at the same time.
And they have the right to the ball.
Yeah, same right.
They can if they're making a play on the ball, they can blow right through Kelce.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
As much a right to the ball as the offensive player.
So, what did you make of Christian McCaffrey's first performance with the 49ers? I know it's clearly overshadowed by this horrific loss, embarrassing loss, ugly loss, but he got in there. He got about 20 snaps. What do you make of it?
I thought he was good, man. He averaged 4.8 yards per carry. He had a couple of receptions. I believe he had like two or three for like 25 yards. I mean, he got 10 touches for 60 something yards. I mean, that's a good debut, particularly given that you had 2 days to learn whatever you could of the playbook. And that was one thing that Shanahan touched on. It's like when you're in red zone or like you're on short yardage or whatever, it's hard to get McCaffrey in there. And it's something that I said yesterday. It's that, pass pro, like that's going to be an issue. You know, he doesn't know the pass protections yet. And so I think with more and more time, next week he'll probably look a little better. I think he'll fully hit his stride after the bye week going into that Chargers game, and I think he's going to look really good. I'm excited though. Every time he touched the ball, you could see the vision and the electricity. He's like a home run hitter in waiting. He's going to break a long touchdown for the 49ers pretty quickly. It's very, very aware of that.
He did look like the first quarter, I would say the 49ers offense was rolling. Granted, they couldn't punch it in, but still they were getting yards like crazy between the 20s, from their 20 to the Chiefs 20. They were moving the ball with ease. And I thought, holy, this is going to be a good game. The 49ers offense might be able to finally be leaned upon for the first time this year, but they just unfortunately couldn't punch it in. But I will say, on the Christian McCaffrey topic, he looked really good. He looked good. He looked like that was the spark the 49ers offense was missing, especially in the run game. And him and Jeff Wilson turned out to be a pretty good 1-2 punch up until Kyle Shanahan kind of felt, okay, this game might be a little too much for Christian McCaffrey with his limited knowledge of the offense. And then he kind of just went with Jeff Wilson for the rest of the game. But I agree. I thought that he was really, really good in the limited snaps that we saw.
I actually thought it was funny that TDP actually got some carries, to the point where like, wait, did Jeff Wilson Jr. get hurt? And I was just like, wait, why don't we just rotate the backs and just like pound it all day long? Yeah. You're taking the ball out of Jimmy Garoppolo's hands. And again, Jimmy Garoppolo 37. And by the way, I know some of you Jimmy stands out there are going to go, well, he was 25 of 37 for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, man. Garbage. It was garbage, because when they needed him the most, he threw another red zone interception. He got hit for another safety. He again tried to scramble away. He had 3 turnovers today. Don't let the stats fool you. He was terrible.
Yeah. So, and again, that one interception, was it right before half or right? When did he throw the interception in the end zone?
I mean, it was well within them getting points.
You're right.
You throw the ball away.
It was at sorry to cut you off. 1:32 left in the first half, and they were at the Kansas City 5.
Right.
Down 1 point.
All you got to do is throw the ball all the way out the back of the end zone instead of trying to make a play. And then you got 4th down, and you actually might go into halftime with a lead.
Yeah.
Them trailing by 1.
Yeah.
They gifted it to you because it was Kansas City's second turnover.
Yeah.
Off of that punt.
Yeah. So that inexcusable. And that is something you cannot have your, however year, I forget whatever year quarterback veteran he's at now. You can't have him do that. You simply cannot have him make those types of mistakes. Like he took that sack to knock the 49ers out of field goal range. Granted, that's not completely on him, but still, you would hope your quarterback would at least be able to throw the ball away. Penalties were a huge problem for the 49ers. Yet again, another 10 penalty game for the Niners. They finished with 10 penalties. I just had it here.
Yep.
For 80 yards. Seemed like it was going to be a lot more than that in the first half. Is this team just simply undisciplined, Matt?
Yeah, they are. They are. Plain and simple. Yeah. They are. When I agree with this, by the way, too, when Danny Gray's out there, the play is very predictable, at least what Danny Gray is going to do. Yeah. But that's why you have to kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry.
What did Danny Reed teach Kyle Shanahan? He taught him who his dad actually is, and it's not Mike. Andy Reid is his daddy.
Yeah.
We know who the real offensive genius in the NFL is right now, and it's not Kyle Shanahan, unfortunately.
Which makes these posts on Friday night, Saturday night look even more cringeworthy, where they have Jimmy Garoppolo, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and best offense in the NFL. That shit. I'm sorry. I was hoping that this would actually be a good offense. I know it's only one weekend, don't get me wrong, but it was atrocious. It really was atrocious. And I hope the 49ers can figure it out, because if not, it's going to be a long year.
I think this is the most points the offense has scored, though, because I think that Seattle game they had a defensive touchdown.
Yeah.
So this was the most they've scored. Kittle didn't look washed today, by the way. Ace, bro. Kittle didn't look washed. They just throw to him. I think you mean to say they don't throw to him enough. He looked pretty good today. So I'll give credit where credit's due. He finally scored a touchdown on National Tight End Day. Good for him.
Yeah.
But again, even if Kittle, and I never said he was washed, I said he's on the decline, which I still feel is true. But he is one of the least most worrisome parts about this team. It starts with Jimmy. Jimmy is by far the worst part of what's going on with the offense, and then Kyle is right there behind him by not holding the players accountable. So,
you know what's funny is aside from the touchdown, Travis Kelce and George Kittle had the same exact day. 6 receptions for 98 yards. George Kittle got it on 9 targets, Kelce on 8, and Kittle had the touchdown. Same exact day.
I mean, it could have been worse. A holding call wiped out Kelce's touchdown where he absolutely waylaid Talanoa Hufanga. Talanoa Hufanga just bounced off him like he was running into a concrete wall.
Yeah. What frustrated me the most is there were a ton of missed calls. I'm not even going to put this game on missed calls because it clearly wasn't that. It was so much more. But whenever the 49ers actually did get a call, there was always an offsetting penalty. Almost always an offsetting penalty that just redid the down. It was so frustrating. There was a call on a holding call, Mike McGlinchey, towards the end of the game, where McGlinchey's literally getting choke held by Chris Jones, and they called holding on McGlinchey. Jay Ellie says, "Are you guys feeling special teams?" I'm kind of questioning the hire there. How bad were special teams today? Because they looked atrocious to me.
I think you guys are real quick to forget what the fuck happened last year. So it's not Hightower. So I'm going to give the new guy time. But at the same time, I don't think that Ray McLeod's getting it done as a returner. I think they're a little weak on the edges on returns. And so it's not great.
Yeah. I don't remember who it was. I think it was a former football player, basically said, why is he taking it out of the end zone every time he gets the chance? That's right. You shouldn't. And I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
Oh,
he does, and he shouldn't.
It's way too much confidence in his own abilities, and then he gets tripped up shy of the 15, or with our luck, he fumbles because he does have a fumbling problem. But he needs to just take the touchback when it's given to him.
Yeah,
it's really unfortunate.
Definitely.
Kalani Wilhelm says pass plays for 3 to 5 yards that equate to the receiver taking big hits is hard to see. These hits will add up over the season.
The only player that seems to be getting open consistently is Brandon Ayuk, who had another strong game today.
Yep. 7 receptions for 82 yards.
How you feel about this, Zach? If the Amen report says if the season falls off the rails, does Brock Purdy get a look?
I mean, you were just touching on this earlier. What's the point on continuing to pay Jimmy Garoppolo whatever his incentives-based contract is if they're going to lose in embarrassing fashion anyway? Exactly. You might as well just play the rookie. If you're going to get similar mistakes, play the rookie. I mean, I understand it.
Exactly.
But the good thing about this team, right, is that if you need, and I don't want this to happen, but if you need this year to be a throwaway year, just fucking bite the bullet and do it. And then you get Trey Lance coming back next year. Christian McCaffrey's under contract for another 3 years. You just extended George Kittle. Brandon Ayuk still under contract. Deebo Samuel has just been extended. You got all of the key
Trent
players
Williams is still
here.
under contract.
Trent Williams is still under contract. Maybe you can figure out what the hell to do with the O-line. But if you need to just bite the bullet this year and do it, just do it. Just do it, because this half good, half bad, when you're bad, you're fucking horrible. When you're good, you look okay shit is so frustrating. It's so damn frustrating.
It is.
And in the meantime, they're paying Jimmy Garoppolo all this money to do this.
Yep.
So.
Amen report says Kyle needs to be stripped of play calling. Disagree. His play calling is fine. It's Jimmy Garoppolo executing it. That's the problem. Again, I will point out that Alex Rollins NFL video on YouTube. Go watch it. He breaks it down. Kyle is doing absolutely everything he can to help Jimmy Garoppolo as much as he can. But at the end of the day, if Jimmy Garoppolo can't make the throw, it's like I said last night, you can lead a man to water, but you can't force him to drink. Jimmy Garoppolo is parched right now.
Yeah. I mean, and again, at the end of the day, I understand execution does come back on the head coach, but unless Kyle Shanahan can literally go out there and throw the ball for Jimmy Garoppolo, there's not much more he can do. There's not much more he can do.
Killer Kyle, Jimmy is absolutely the worst thing for this team. Shanahan doesn't trust him, which hinders his play calling. I agree. And I think part of that is why he was running quarterback power with Trey Lance. I don't think he trusted Trey Lance either. And that was part of it. He would trust Trey Lance to take shots down the field, but the normal throws that, tunnel screens and things like that. He didn't really trust him. So he's like a prove it to me and then I'll give you more kind of guy. So
yeah.
Jittery Jimbo is total trash. Defense got exposed as a fraud. Thanks, Robert Davis. I don't think the defense is fraudulent. I think they're overcoming a lot of injuries. And like I said, I think this was Andy Reid picking on a more inexperienced defensive coordinator and knowing exactly what he wanted to do, and he has an answer for it. That's part of it.
Yeah. So next week they have the Rams in LA, and then they have the bye week, and then they have Sunday night against the Chargers, who got completely whooped by the Seahawks today. All of today ends with the Seahawks in first place of the NFC West, just like everybody expected in week 7 of the year when we were looking back on the season a couple of months ago. How do you feel about this team moving forward, Matt? Honestly, just the next 2 games, Rams, Chargers, with the bye week in between.
If I'm being honest, I think the Rams are going to win the game. They're coming off of a bye week. They're at home. This again, when you have this much time to get ready for an opponent, you should win. And Jimmy Garoppolo in this offense has shown me no ability to keep up with the Rams and in any type of shootout with any team. This offense has not shown an ability to keep up. So if Stafford is on and the defense doesn't make plays, which again, they haven't shown that they can against the Chiefs today. I don't know. I don't know. They have to. I'm at the point right now where I'm with this team where I am almost reluctant to pick them to win any game at this point. Yeah. I will probably pick them to beat the Chargers for the simple fact that Brandon Staley is a terrible coach and is squandering that talent, and then the 49ers will be coming off a bye week. So that would be my only reason for picking them. It's not good, man. Yeah. It's not good. Yeah. And this team is snake bit by injuries. It hasn't gotten any better. It's just this team is ineffective. And we're seeing it. You see like these rise and falls, right, of certain teams. I think we're getting to the point where if something doesn't happen quick, you got to start looking at the regime, and maybe you just need to clean house. I hate to say it this early, but it's just like the way this team played today, it's almost like Kyle is starting to lose the locker room.
It does seem like it. There was no energy. There's no anything. And this is the stat you were talking about earlier to start the show per 49ers on NBC Sports. The 49ers this season, 2 games down at half. They're 0-2. This season, down after the third quarter, 2 games, they're 0-2. Down 3 points after the third quarter since 2017. They're 1-30 out of 31 games. I mean, I understand a lot of those games were with shitty quarterbacks, but how many have these games have they had with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm?
I mean, well, you said I know these games were with shitty quarterbacks. What does Jimmy Garoppolo have to do with that? Okay,
with the really, really bad ones, CJ, Nick Mullins,
replacement,
Brian Hoyer. Gotcha. We have a super chat from Jaguayo56. The whole team played subpar. 3rd and 20 SMH.
That 3rd and 20 screen was terrible.
I got flashbacks to the Super Bowl, man.
It was so bad.
So that bugged me a lot because it's like DeMeco Ryans is thought of as this fantastic defensive coordinator next in line for a head coaching gig. And you're telling me you couldn't expect a screen pass to the running back on a 3rd and 20?
He literally copied what the Bills did against the Chiefs last week with 3 down linemen and 8 dudes in coverage. And it's like, you didn't expect Andy Reid to like look at that and go, okay, if we see this personnel, what can we do to counter? Yeah. You didn't expect that. That's what I'm talking about with the experience of Andy Reid versus the inexperience of DeMeco Ryans. DeMeco Ryans is to the point where he's like, oh, well, it worked once, it'll work again. Yeah. Right. Whereas Andy Reid's like, okay, here's how they got us. That's not going to happen again. I know exactly what to do. I know what personnel to put in, and I know how to make it so that whatever personnel's in there, we can check to that play. And it's just, not good, man.
It's the you see it all the time. He set it up earlier in the game. saw how D'Amico was going to defend it, and then did it again, but did something differently. Just like the run to Hardman that ended up being a touchdown. They had Nick Bosa get drawn down, and which they had done earlier, and instead of having the play stop right there, they kind of just completely leave him untouched.
I think they
and
had
Hardman ran
3
around
reverses for touchdowns today, by the way.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it at all.
So I just listen. I will tell you all this right now, and this is such a negative show, and it sucks. But I mean, not a lot of positive happened today. But Super Bowl caliber teams, playoff caliber teams, don't give up 3rd and 20 first downs with a screen pass. I'm just saying that right now. I'm putting that out.
Amen reports, as much as Kyle should be on the hot seat, I feel like Jed York will allow Kyle a year with Trey Lance, but John Lynch ends up being the scapegoat.
Oh, for sure, because John Lynch still has the out of like, oh, I can take the TV money. You can just release me from my contract. Kyle's going to get more than 1 year. Kyle's going to get a couple more years because he's under contract for 6 years. And I think what's his face? Jim Tom Sula just came off the books. Either him or Chip Kelly came off the books. So he's definitely not going to fire him. I just think that I agree John Lynch will be the scapegoat. And I'm honestly, I'm okay with it because I think with John Lynch there, Kyle is more of the guy that can take I can make the picks. I'm the personnel guy, whatever. If they fire John Lynch and promote Adam Peters is going to be the guy. And I would say if I was Jed York, get him out, get John Lynch out, put Adam Peters in the GM role, and then take Kyle Shanahan aside and say, Kyle, you need to coach this team. You don't need to be making players, right? We're going to take that away from you. We need to go with the actual personnel guys.
And not only are we going to take that away from you, you're actually held accountable now to your GM. When we hired you, we were in a desperate fucking position. We gave you all the power. We said, not only will we hire you, you can pick your general manager. What other head coach besides like Bill Belichick, who is the general manager, has the authority to do that? And 6 years or however long it's been down the line, it hasn't really worked out. So we talked about this last week when they lost to the Falcons. Who holds Kyle Shanahan accountable when he holds everybody else accountable? And there's nobody there to hold him accountable for his shitty decisions. It really is unfortunate, and maybe that is what they need to do moving forward. But I guess we'll see what happens. Express says maybe our defensive coordinator will stay at another year because he's not ready to be a head coach. Still has a lot to learn first. Do you think this game changed his probability he gets a head coaching gig after this year?
I don't think it helps. That's for sure. I think it again shows the inexperience. And when you only have 2 years on the job, I thought it was very smart of him to say last year when he was getting interviewed that he took the one interview and he was like, you know what? I don't think I'm ready for it yet. I want to make sure that when I do take a head coaching job that I'm ready for the position and I'm set up for success because I know what I'm doing. And I think that this just shows, man, you still got a long way to go. And that's not a bad thing, right? I wouldn't expect somebody as a second-year defensive coordinator to be ready to be thrust into a head coaching job. That's just, you're not doing yourself any favors by, leaping before you look. You got to sit there and really do a self-evaluation and say, am I actually ready for this? Or could I use a little bit more seasoning? I'd like to see him stay, not only because I think he's a good defensive coordinator, but because I actually liked him as a player when he was with Houston. I want to make sure that like when these guys go out there, that they're actually doing a good job, right? You don't want to do this thing where you run through a coach every year or whatever. You go to a place, you're a 1 year. I mean, we've been through that with the 49ers, right? With Chip Kelly, with Jim Tom Sula. We have short-term guys like Mike Nolan. We have short-term guys like Mike Singletary. We've been through the bad coaches, right? And you want to make sure that when you do go out there, you're set up for success. So I do think that this does hinder him a little bit though, because this was an ass whooping, plain and simple. And
I understand last week there were a ton of injuries, 7 or 8 started on defense going into the game. But last weekend was an ass whooping as well. Kalani Wilhelm, our next offensive series after the kill touchdown, 1 penalty on the return, 2 -1 yard run. Christian McCaffrey, 3rd sack, 4th safety. So not necessarily an ideal sequence of events after you got a touchdown to cut it within 1 score. it is what it is. And yeah, Jay Ellie, when you win games, they're able to let some shit slide. So win some games. Very well said. I agree. Ian Sharp, Andy Reid was one step ahead. 100%. 100%. It was clear. These two guys, Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid, are always mentioned top of the NFL in offensive masterminds, great offensive play callers. Well, I think it was clear today, very, very clear who the better offensive play caller was. And I understand all of it comes down to the quarterback, but outside of the quarterback, I'd say Kyle Shanahan had more overall talent on his side to play with. Don't take me out of context. I understand Jimmy Garoppolo really brings that group down and Patrick Mahomes really brings his group up. But receivers, running backs, I'd argue the 49ers are more talented on those positions. And again, 23 points is all they got.
I don't disagree with you, but at the same time, you said it.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that Jimmy Garoppolo is lesser than Patrick Mahomes, and now we know why quarterbacks get paid the most.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're the most important. A great quarterback will elevate his talent around him.
Yeah. John Chapman of the 49ers podcast pointed out that the Seahawks are the only remaining team on the 49ers schedule with a winning record. Isn't that crazy to think?
I mean, yeah, it's week 7 though.
But there's a lot of
teams are within one game.
There's a lot of mid teams in the NFL this year, especially in the NFC.
For sure. It's almost like going to a 3-game preseason with shorter lead up to the season was actually detrimental to a lot of people. Who would have thought?
Yeah. I saw, this is totally off topic, but I saw this suggestion. I don't remember who suggested it, but if the NFL added an extra bye week, then the Super Bowl would be the weekend of, I don't know what holiday it is, President's Day or something. And then the following Monday would be a national holiday. Like, that's just such a genius idea. Imagine the following Monday of a Super Bowl always being off, always having it off from work. At least people that have these national holidays off.
Be sweet, man.
Yeah. Very, very needs to be replaced on special teams.
I mean, maybe try Danny Gray back there. Let him contribute.
Yeah. Glass half full guy. What is Kyle doing? I don't understand his play calling.
He's working around a really bad quarterback.
Yeah.
Again, for the 15th time, go watch the Alex Rollins NFL video on YouTube about Jimmy Garoppolo, his heat chart, what he does well, what he doesn't do well, and how Kyle works really hard to scheme around that, and how Jimmy very easily screws it all up.
Yeah. Yep. I keep seeing people saying in the chat accounts are getting hacked left and right.
I think it was just the one. I think it was just the one account. Don't click on emails, y'all.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll be as careful as possible, but I'm not sure what else to do. Thought we fixed our special teams dumb penalties. The penalties, when the team actually did have a chance, penalties did everything to make sure that they didn't. And we talked about it before we went on. After a first half full of penalties, the 49ers come out on special teams, kickoff, let Pacheco take the opening kickoff 50 yards. And then on top of that, Juwan Jennings has to be a dumbass and push Pacheco out when he's already out of bounds to top on another 15 yards, basically giving him a 65-yard kickoff return to open up the second half. It was almost laughable, the shit that the 49ers did to themselves today. Almost laughable. If I wasn't such a big fan, I would be cracking up. I would be cracking.
Yeah, it's again, it's one thing to get beat by a better team. It's another thing to shoot yourself in the foot while you're getting your ass whooped.
Yeah.
It's just like today was terrible.
Yeah. Again, we hate to be so negative, but there really wasn't much to be positive about. Christian looked good. Brandon Ayuk continues to look good. Juice continues to look good. George had a not watched game.
Look good.
Yeah.
It was nice to see. It was nice to see Trent Williams back out there.
Although he kind of looked like he had his hands full.
Yeah, sure. He absolutely did, but he's also coming off a high ankle too. So
yeah.
Yeah.
When is Kyle going to be on the hot seat?
Nothing but Niners got hacked too? Oof. Or did Wayne just get hacked twice?
The first comment said both. But
well, I took it to mean like because Wayne is on Nitty Gritty Niners and Nothing But Niners, that it was Wayne from those two shows got hacked rather than those two shows. But yeah, maybe they both got hacked.
That's horrible. Glass half full guy. When is Kyle going to be on the hot seat? We talked about this a little bit. Do you think there will be a point this year, Matt?
Not this season, because he can just point to Trey Lance and go, I designed my whole season around that guy.
Yeah. Tommy Huxley, Debo had a bad game. He only owns the Lambs in bad teams. I don't think that's true.
I don't think he had a good game, and I think that Debo is limited. Like, honestly, I pointed it out earlier. In terms of being a wide receiver, Ayuk is a better wide receiver than Debo Samuel.
Yeah, 100%. I don't disagree with that at all. I just don't think he only plays well against the Lambs and bad teams. He's played well against good teams. It's just hard when it seems like the opposing defenses are doing everything they can to make sure he's not the one that beats them. And that's when Brandon Ayuk does shine a little bit. Ace Bro, Niners have to kick the damn ball in the end zone. Touchbacks will help. SMH. Yeah. Kick it at the 5, kick it at the 4. I don't know what the hell, if they don't have the leg strength or what, but they don't seem to go for touchbacks.
It's Robbie Gould, dude. He doesn't have the leg strength.
Yeah.
Joel, maybe it's time to get Wish back out there.
Yeah. Joel 49 says, Matt, I always agree with your takes. Feels so liberating to have a voice.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you. Yeah. I try to keep it real. I try to, I'm not trying to like dunk on anybody or like, drag anybody or anything like that. But, I just see a lot of the stuff that people see, and I don't let my fandom for the team pull up like the rose-colored glasses over my eyes and go like, well, it's this, it's that. Yeah. If the team stinks, the team stinks. And if they're not doing well, they're not doing well. And we just got to keep it real. I'm always going to try to be honest with you guys, at least what my opinion is. And I'm not always right, but I do my best to be honest with you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we try to do here. If the Niners had a better head coach and a better quarterback, they wouldn't be in this mess. Well, you can say that about a lot of teams, to be fair. Terry Teal, what are your thoughts on Mahomes? What you expected?
Man, he's good. He's just good. There was one pass that I can't remember who caught it. It might have been Marcus Valdes-Scantling or whatever. Mahomes was rolling to his left and just like sidearm flung it. Yeah. And it just, I was just like, damn, dude. Like, I just wish I had I was watching earlier. And again, when you're used to bad quarterback play, you forget, right? But I was watching earlier the Packers, and I was just like, dude, can we just trade Jimmy G for Aaron Rodgers straight up? Like, take on the contract, the full thing. We'll figure out how to make it work or whatever. Because Rodgers is so pinpoint, but his weapons are so bad this year that he can't do anything. And I'm just like, could you imagine with how Kyle schemes his offense open if he just had an accurate quarterback that could put the ball exactly where it needed to go? Yeah, this offense would be in the top of the NFL easily. So it's super frustrated. I'm just Mahomes. It's hard when you see Mahomes and like earlier this year. You just watch a lot of the players, and last year we saw it. I think it was last year, or it was 2020. It was 2020 when Josh Allen came in on Monday night and absolutely eviscerated us. And you just see that great quarterback play, and then you look at Jimmy Garoppolo and you're like, man, I want nice things too. Right? Why can't I have a new bike on Christmas? You're sitting there with the same shitty flat tire bike with the bent rim that can't get you anywhere. And you're just like, if I could just have like, not even like a Mongoose or a Schwinn or something, just get me a Target bike that can get me from point A to point B. That's all I want, instead of this piece of shit that doesn't go anywhere. And that's kind of how I feel with the quarterbacks.
Yeah. We have a super chat from Jaguar56. When we had a sliver of hope, our D was awful.
Yeah, the defense was really bad today. It's one of the first times where I could say that the defense was on par with Jimmy Garoppolo for being at blame for why this team lost.
Yeah, 100%.
Make no mistake, though. It's already happening. I've seen it on Twitter already. Grant Cohn posted something about Jimmy Garoppolo having 5 turnovers in 2 games, and everybody was like, but what about the defense? Don't let the stat line fool you. Jimmy was just as awful as he always is. The defense just happened to be bad today, too.
Javier Rios O-line was broke from start to finish. I'm not a Jimmy fan, but he did what he could do with what he had.
No, he missed wide open receivers and held the ball. Yeah. I encourage you when the All 22 comes out to watch it. And again, for the 17th time, I'll refer you to Alex Rollins' NFL video on what Jimmy Garoppolo does, what Kyle Shanahan does to scheme around him, where Jimmy throws the ball and everything like that. And you will see that Kyle actually schemes a lot of stuff open, probably more than a lot of coaches, and Jimmy almost never sees it. Yeah. I mean, even when he does hit a wide open receiver, by the way, like George Kittle today, it's late, which allows the safety time to recover. That should have been a walk-in touchdown. And instead it was a big gain. I'll give him that. But at the same time, it's like, dude, you're again leaving a lot of food on the table, and these dogs are sitting underneath the table like, throw me a scrap. Nothing.
Yeah. I'm just gonna throw this out there. By the way, you talked about Kyle Shanahan, or excuse me, the Niners trading for Aaron Rodgers, making it work. What if they just traded for Tom Brady? Just a straight up Jimmy for Tom trade. Let Tom finish his career with the Niners. You got Jimmy. You can deal with whatever the hell he wants to do after this season, Tampa.
Yeah.
And then, hey, Tom, you can retire here, and we'll move on to Trey.
I'm sure Jimmy's like, yo, or I'm sure Tom Brady's like, dang, I lost my wife and kids for this shit. You know, like
he's got no help in Tampa outside of Mike Evans, right? And Mike Evans seems to be constantly beat up. If he were to come to San Francisco,
I want to say this too, though. Part of this is on Tom Brady, because Tom Brady was probably the one that kicked Bruce Arians upstairs, and it's like, oh, now you realize that no, you're the greatest, sure, but even the greatest still needs a coach. Michael Jordan needed Phil Jackson, right? You still need a coach, so.
I think it would be interesting though, just to see. I mean, obviously,
it would never
it's a fantasy.
Happen.
It's a dream. I'm not being 100% serious at all. But just think, Tom, you need to change the scenery. Jimmy, you're not even here next year according to your contract. Let's just say we tried our best and good luck. And
I don't know though. My only thing with Tom Brady is I think that this offensive line would get him fucking killed.
Well, I mean, the Bucks are basically down to reserves on every other spot too. They lost a ton.
I would say though, like if you gave me a choice, I'd rather have Rodgers than Brady at this point in their careers.
Oh, of course. But the whole thing with Trey Lance complicates things. That's why I said maybe Brady 1 year, you finish your year, and then we can kind of toss this year in the trash, or win a Super Bowl and say thanks.
Wano says Thomas Cook, dog. Yeah, but I mean Jimmy Garoppolo is straight up burnt.
It's not much of a difference. You might as well go with the GOAT.
Right.
He at least knows what to do with the ball. This is something we talked about earlier. Damian Lee, the Niners don't care after they got paid. It kind of seems like what it's like with Fred Warner this year.
A little bit, yeah. Debo's a little different. He's so dependent on other people, and he's had some good games this year. But Fred Warner just looks bad right now, and I don't understand what's happening.
He looks lost.
I just don't get it. Particularly in coverage, and today his run defense wasn't even good. No. He does not look good right now.
Yeah. So the next 5 games, we talked about the Rams, the Chargers. After that, they got the Cardinals in Mexico on a Monday night, and then they have the Saints on Sunday. That's the November 27th, and then they have the Dolphins. All of these games, aside from the Cardinals games, are at home, and then after that, they have the Bucs game. And then they finally have a away game versus Seattle, and I believe that's the Thursday night game. Yes, Thursday night. So these are pretty favorable games. I mean, the Bucs lost to arguably the worst team. The Bucs just lost to the worst team in the NFL in the Panthers. A team that the 49ers blew out, a team that
that's true. That's true. But I would encourage people again. I don't like them against the Rams coming off the bye. I might, favor them with the Chargers because Brandon Staley's a terrible coach. But New Orleans defense is actually really good. So you can't sleep on them. And Miami lost a couple of games without Tua because he was down and they were running out their third stringer. I already forgot his name. He was not good.
Skylar Thompson, I think.
Skylar Thompson. There you go. So they lost Teddy Two Gloves and they lost Skylar Thompson. And so they had a couple of bad games. But if we had a hard time with, these receivers, I mean, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are going to eat us alive. So that Tampa Bay game notwithstanding, we could get to Seattle having lost 4 out of our last 6. So it's not with this. Again, I encourage everybody, take the defensive touchdowns out of the equation and then tell me how much this team is scoring or really how much they're not scoring. This is under a 20-point per game team on offense, and that's not going to get it done in today's NFL. Not at all.
Yeah.
And that's primarily Jimmy Garoppolo.
I'm just hoping when I did the Nothing But Niners Patreon show with Mike yesterday, we were saying, how much do we think Christian McCaffrey actually adds to this offense? And I speculated he would add a measurable 7 points worth per game. I think he adds a touchdown. Maybe I should have said 4 because I think he turns a field goal into a touchdown each game. And I think that would be noticeable. So
I agree. And I think he just needs to get up to speed. And I really do think that the biggest thing will be once Elijah Mitchell comes back too. And then instead of rotating Christian McCaffrey and Jeff Wilson, you're rotating Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. And I think that that's more of an explosive tandem. And then you're not having Jimmy Garoppolo throw the ball 48 times like he did the other week or 37 times like he did today. And you're ball controlling and you're front running like you're supposed to. So that in the second half of games, when you're into the third quarter, you're up by 7 instead of down by 4, and that's going to make a huge difference.
And that's when you hand it off 12 straight times of whatever the hell the Niners love to do when you're protecting the lead. Robert Davis brought up Greenlaw got hurt and the middle of our defense buckled. Yeah, He suffered that calf injury. He had that giant brace on. I don't think he ever returned.
So that brace thing, what it looked like is that it was a circulator. It was probably like a warm circulator, either that or like a cold circulator, something to do. Like I had one of those when I had shoulder surgery, and you wrap it around and it has that thing on it, and it actually circulates water through there to kind of like,
oh shit.
Yeah. So it's cool stuff. But I think, and when you look at what he said with Dre Greenlaw, you look at losing Azeez Al-Shire, and it's almost like, did those two guys actually prop Fred Warner up a little bit so that he could get that money? And without one or both of those guys, Fred Warner doesn't look the same.
Yeah.
I equate it to Navarro Bowman. Navarro Bowman was like great, right? But actually, no, he was a product of being next to Patrick Willis and the very underrated Ahmad Brooks. And when one or two of those guys were gone, he wasn't as good. And obviously, he really sank after the knee injury against Seattle. But it's one of those things where, the sum of the parts is greater than the individual. And I think that Fred Warner has been propped up by players for as much as we, shit on Dre Greenlaw or whatever. Dre Greenlaw makes plays. Yeah. He might make some dumb plays every now and again. But I think that his sideline to sideline ability actually frees up Fred Warner to do the stuff that he does well. And so it does make a difference.
Yeah. And not only that, but he's a pretty solid tackler. More often than not, if Dre Greenlaw, is in front of you, he's going to wrap you up. And I tweeted earlier, is Travis Kelce drenched in canola oil or something? Nobody could even attempt to tackle him on defense. I don't know what it was.
I mean, Lenore did and got his shit broke off.
That's fair. I mean, I understand he's super physical, but what I'm talking about is they weren't even attempting to wrap him up. Like they were just kind of holding on to like one limb, and he would just kind of, get off me type thing. And it was really frustrating to see, but I know he's a beast.
I think he's really, he's really strong too. He's really good with changing his pad level so that people can't get a good wrap on him. And I think so what you want to do is you want to grab a limb and try to hold him up for somebody else to come in and finish him off.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. George Kittle does that too, where one guy is not going to wrap. I've never seen George Kittle get straight up just wrapped by one dude. It's always like one dude is hanging on. Please, somebody come help me take him out the rest of the way. We saw that multiple times today, and that's just how it is. That's just how they play. They're big, strong dudes. And when you're asking corners and safeties and even sometimes smaller linebackers, I mean, you think about Dre Greenlaw. Dre Greenlaw runs 6'1", 6'2", about 250, 260. Travis Kelce's 6'5", 6'6". So it's just a difference in human. You know what I mean? It's just physics at work.
Yep. Damian Lee has said this a couple times. They have video of Niners players playing around on the sideline, dancing while losing. They don't care. Does that bother you? I haven't seen the video.
Listen, as somebody who is competitive, you don't necessarily want to see that, but at the end of the day, you have to realize that not every professional athlete is in it for the winning. Some are in it for the money, some are in it for the fame, and so that's going to happen. I mean, that happens all the time. You see it in every professional sport where a losing team, it's the same thing like how we feel about rivalries, right? We this team fuck the Seahawks, fuck this, fuck that, right? And then you see them hugging after the game and all this stuff. Baseball is a perfect example, right? I can't stand the Dodgers. I hate the Dodgers with a passion. But you watch them play, the Padres or whatever, and you see Manny Machado talking to people on third base or them like joking around with the guy at first base or whatever. These are professional athletes. I don't think the rivalry means as much to them, as it does to us. And I think the same holds true to a certain extent for the winning. It's some guys are just about getting that check, and that sucks, but I think that's part of it. So it does bother me, but I'll say it does bother me. I wish it didn't happen, but I'm not exactly shocked by it either.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And also it's like at a certain point, what the hell are they supposed to do? Like, yeah, I get they're getting their ass beat, but I would find it hard to believe that they're all just supposed to be sitting there kind of looking downtrodden on the sidelines. They're like, this one's over. We'll chalk it up and we'll get back to the drawing board. It does bother me. I'm not saying it doesn't bother me, but I can just see both sides. VZ408 says, everyone on this team is the reason we lost. Backs. 49ers throwback. Kittle is overpaid. He had a good game today. If he could do this at least a couple more times per year, more often than not, maybe. RA, this is on the coaching staff. They certainly looked as undisciplined as I've seen them look in a game today. So I don't disagree with that. This team will never win a Super Bowl until Kyle is fired. He does have a uncanny ability to fuck things up in the end. I'll give him that.
I'll put it to you this way, though. If our Madden trade went through and they got Brady or Rodgers, they'd probably win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Again, for people that are upset about this defense and whatever, there comes a point where you got to just be like, hey, man, Jimmy leaves points on the board all the time. We're getting 3 where we should get 7. And at the end of the day, those fucked up plays actually do affect the defense where they're like, fuck, dude. It's constant pressure like, oh, we got to hold the lead. Oh, we got to hold the lead. Oh, we got to hold the lead. Rather than like, hell yeah, dude, our offense, instead of playing loose, they're playing tight. And that happens. And I think that each phase of the game affects the other. So you can't blame one thing without blaming everything.
Yeah. And I think also there's so much pressure on the defense knowing this offense arguably cannot come back from a even 3-point lead. So there's so much fucking pressure on them every single possession to play perfectly that it just kind of brings it down when it doesn't go well. So a good quarterback, a competent quarterback, an above average quarterback totally changes that. And an elite quarterback like Tom and Aaron totally changes that.
Tommy Huxley, Matt, you have a point, but this defense couldn't stop a nosebleed today. The key word is the last word in your sentence, today. But what have they been doing for most of the season? They've been carrying this team, right? This is the same defense that only gave up 11 to the Broncos. What'd the offense get? 10. Okay.
Technically 9 because the safety.
Right. Technically 9. So it's one of these things where, like it sucks, but everybody's going to lay an egg every now and again. And today, like I said, I think D'Amico Ryans got outcoached by Andy Reid, and that was to be expected given Andy Reid's experience versus D'Amico Ryans. Now, if the trend continues where the defense is just giving up and not stopping anybody, and it's nosebleed after nosebleed after nosebleed, then all right, then I'll work with you. But before today, we were talking about this team as an elite level defense.
Yeah.
So it's just you can't have one without the other. You know what I mean? So I want to see a trend. One game, anybody can have a really bad game. That's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I agree. Juana 14-13, and he threw a pick on the goal line. Kyle Shanahan finally said that's inexcusable. You cannot do that. And I agree.
My thing is, like, do they not coach him? Hey, man, if it's not there, just throw it away.
Yeah.
Because if they are coaching it and he's not doing it, then Jimmy's a moron. And if they're not coaching it and so he doesn't think to do it, not only is he a moron, the coaching staff is a bunch of morons too. Yeah. So it's one of the red zone interceptions kill this team. Red zone turnovers kill this team. And he's had multiple. By the way, I don't want to see Jimmy Garoppolo 2 safeties in one season. When's the last time that's happened?
I can't even. I mean, I'm thinking back to the Cody Pickett, JT O'Sullivan days because it's so laughably bad that I cannot remember.
Also, for the Jimmy stands, where's your QB wins now? He's not winning anymore. So now what?
Yeah, he's probably getting close to 500, if not under 500. I don't even remember what the stat was.
In the last 2 years since 2019, probably under 500.
Yeah. Kelch Chronicle says this is a leadership issue, a philosophy issue, a discipline issue. That's a Kyle issue. Kyle's silver-plated fool's gold spoon will continue to show itself.
Okay, but also words. Jimmy Garoppolo misses wide open people.
Yeah.
There comes a point where the coach is going to get so frustrated that he's just like, I don't know what the fuck to do.
Yeah. I mean, on the interception, Jeff Wilson's wide open in the end zone.
Wide open. Who drew up that play? Did Jimmy Garoppolo draw up that play?
Yeah.
I'll wait. No. Oh no, it was Kyle that drew up that play, and then Jimmy didn't do what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But it's a Kyle issue. It's a silver-plated golden spoon issue, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, 18th time, go watch that Alex Rollins NFL video breaking down Jimmy Garoppolo, what he does, where he throws the ball, what Kyle does to work around his limitations, and how easily Jimmy screws it all up.
Yep. I keep saying this, and I have this sick feeling in my stomach that we will be Andy Reid's Philadelphia Eagles. The 49ers are going to have this stint with Kyle Shanahan where he can't figure anything out, and then he's going to go on to another team where he figures it all out, uses the mistakes he made here to learn from, and it's going to fucking suck.
Jimmy Garoppolo was here because John Lynch got a call from Bill Belichick. That's why he was initially here. Now, when you're talking about why is he here this year, because nobody else wanted Jimmy Garoppolo, they were going to cut him. He was going to go to Seattle and start for them. And to keep him out of the division rivals' hands, he decided, why don't we try to restructure? Jimmy agreed to a $6.5 million contract, which as a backup of what Jimmy's caliber as a backup would be, is perfectly fine. You were hoping that Trey Lance was going to start the season. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Do you think Kyle realistically signed Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup going like, well, Trey Lance is going to break his fucking leg. He's going to have to play. No, dude. Stop with this revisionist bullshit. It's bullshit. If you said, I can have Jimmy Garoppolo as a backup for $6.5 million, of course I'm going to have that happen because I know that as a physical running quarterback, there's always the possibility of injury, and it's better than having just Brock Purdy backing up Trey Lance. Imagine Brock Purdy starting for the whole season. We got to look at Brock Purdy today, and it wasn't great. At least Jimmy has some track record. So for $6.5 million, of course we're going to bring back Jimmy Garoppolo. But you can't use it now in hindsight of a Trey Lance injury to say like, well, it's Kyle's fault that he's here. No, dude, defending Kyle is not BS. Blaming Kyle without actually looking at any fucking tape, that's BS. Go watch some tape. I dare you to watch tape and tell me that Kyle isn't scheming the fuck out of this offense and that Jimmy's not screwing it up left and right. I dare you.
And it's not like
I said, we will post the link into the chat. Yeah. Go watch that video and tell me that a lot of this isn't on Jimmy.
And it's not like we're just blindly defending Kyle Shanahan here. We've criticized him plenty, especially for accountability, lack of accountability, discipline. But there are certain things where Kyle Shanahan is doing well. I was the first person to say, dude, they were not hustling their ass off last week against the Falcons. Yeah. I was the first person to say, dude, that clock management was bad. I was the first person to say that there are times where Kyle looks like he's trying to outcoach himself. I've said that multiple times. But when Kyle sets somebody up for success and then they miss and they miss and they miss and they miss, it's at some point or another, he's just going to be like, well, what do I do? Yeah. Yeah. Also, RX824, we were saying earlier, if Jimmy continues to play like this, there's no point in paying him the incentive-based contract.
Right.
Sit his ass and deal with the same mistakes from a rookie quarterback.
Because I think it's appearance based. I don't even think it's stat based.
You're right. Yeah,
I think it's appearance based.
If he starts games,
it's a per game bonus as a starter.
Yeah,
and then if I don't know if it's a make the playoffs or some other type of escalator, but I would save the cap space.
Yeah. So O-line needs to step up. This is who they are. They're not going to. I mean, aside from Trent Williams getting back healthy, the rest of the O-line is who they are.
By the way, I think you're in here late. We absolutely dunked on Kyle for what he said in the press conference today about how they have accountability Mondays and this and this and that. And I don't necessarily disagree with you that he's not a great head coach. But to say that what's happening with the offense is on Kyle is just simply not true. Overall, I think the state of the team is on Kyle because he is the head coach and the buck stops with him and they need to hold each other accountable. But at the end of the day, Kyle is basically in charge of the offense. He doesn't really call defensive plays. He's in charge of the offense. He's in charge of the overall state of the team. The offense, he's scheming the fuck out of it.
Yeah. Yep. Damian Lee, Kyle's scheme is good, but he doesn't understand his team. Watch the video of Niners players dancing around while losing. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And again, like Matt said, we did call him out for saying, I think the team does a pretty good job of holding themselves accountable. I don't really need to do much more. We have hard Mondays where everybody kind of owns up to their mistakes. I think that's bullshit, right. Kyle. I think you need to hold them accountable more because clearly what they're doing isn't enough.
He's the one that needs to do it too.
Yeah.
You know, he needs to look at Jimmy and go, hey, That's unacceptable. You cannot throw that ball. You need to throw the ball out of bounds.
I mean, how many stories have we heard of Bill Belichick chewing out Tom Brady in front of the entire team for something as simple as overthrowing a pass or going to the wrong read, even if it was a touchdown, whatever the case is? He would make it clear, not even Tom is above scrutiny, and I'm going to chew his ass out for something as simple as, the wrong pass that went for 5 yards instead of 7. And every time Jimmy makes a mistake, a game-losing mistake, for some reason Kyle Shanahan seems to defend him or say, well, it wasn't just on Jimmy. A lot of times it kind of is. A lot of times it is.
A lot of time, most times it is. He's like, Jimmy is no more to blame than anyone else. And it's just like, sometimes he is, Kyle.
Yeah. Sometimes. And also, if you're able to get those first 3 red zone trips into the end zone, it's 21-7 or something like that. That's a totally different game than 13 or whatever the hell the score was to 7. And it really is unfortunate, but the offense just stalls. As soon as they get inside the 20, the offense stalls. And hopefully Christian McCaffrey helps with that.
Wano Matthew says, well, I've heard on the Ham pod, the Kyle is rough on Jimmy in the building. Listen, obviously just being rough on him in the building isn't working. At some point or another, you got to give somebody a public wake-up call.
Yeah.
And whether that's going to come through a benching or what. I mean, Jimmy is going to play himself onto the bench. That's what's going to happen.
Jimmy Johnson fired Dallas Cowboys players for mistakes. I think someone wrote about it. One of Matthew says, talked about it, other coaches having to tell Kyle to chill with Jimmy. Well, maybe that was when he actually expected more out of him. I don't know. Trent getting injured more now. Kyle's too fucking nice to the players. That's a problem. He needs to yell at the players when they're fucking up. Agreed. He's too much of the chill head coach. Our guy Dion, Niner Game Podcast, Bill says no one is above reproach. 100%.
Absolutely agree.
That needs to be the philosophy.
I mean, think about all the shit that like Joe Montana went through. Think about when during the 94 Super Bowl season, when they were getting blown out by the Minnesota Vikings, it was week 3, and George Seifert pulls Steve Young and benches him. And Steve Young gets fucking pissed, gets mad. I mean, he's yelling at George Seifert on the sideline. George Seifert's no selling it. He's just watching the game or whatever. And then what happened? The team came together. At some point or another, you have to have that come to Jesus meeting. And it's like, if you're not getting it done, you're going to get gone. And we're getting to that point. Kyle said today, oh, well, I think you could look to last season. We had the record that we did, and you could look at that and look at that for like whatever. And it's like, no, dude, this is a different season. This is a different team. And this team looks remarkably worse than last year's team.
Yeah. Great quote from Brandon Ayuk per 95.7 The Game. We got way too many people who can change the game to score 23 points. I'm just glad they're feeling the same way.
That's facts.
Especially Brandon Ayuk.
But again, when you're Brandon Ayuk, when you're George Kittle, when you're Deebo Samuel, even to some extent the running backs, Christian McCaffrey and Jeff Wilson Jr., who's the person that has to get you the ball?
Yeah.
This is why, again, when people say, oh, well, it's not on Jimmy. Well, it's not on Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Quarterbacks are the highest paid on the field. They need to be. And why is that? Because they're the most responsible for all the success and all of the failure. Again,
I will say,
a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, a quarterback like Josh Allen, they raise the level of the talent around them. They make everybody else better because they put them in positions to succeed. When you have excellent skill positions and a shit quarterback, doesn't matter how good you are. I mean, again, the Browns had Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry on the same team with David Njoku and Nick Chubb. And what was the problem? I mean, the Ravens lost, or the Ravens beat the Browns again today. They have Jacoby Brissett as their quarterback. They still have weapons out there. What's the problem? They have Amari Cooper. Why can't they score the ball? Oh, it's the quarterback. Quarterback matters. You're the highest paid on the team. You should be held the most accountable. So when Kyle says, oh, Jimmy's no more to blame than anybody else, that's bullshit. He is more to blame than everybody else. And Ayuk's absolutely right. We are way too skilled. We have way too many weapons on this team to be scoring 23 points. That's exactly right. And when you look at it, why is that? Quarterback, plain and simple.
Yeah. 49ers throwback. Hey, Zach, look, Jimmy on 49ers falling to 3-4. Quote, don't want to hit the panic button or anything right now. And I have a feeling they're all sitting there telling themselves, We were 3-5 last year. Look where we ended up. How much shit had to go right for them to end up where they ended up after falling to 3-5? That's not something you want to rely on. That's something you want to avoid at all costs. And I understand the NFC's in shittier condition, but that's not a road you want to go down again.
I'll say this. You don't want to hit the panic button, but you need to be lifting the cover on the panic button a little bit.
Yeah. And pointing to it every single day, saying this is where the hell we're at. If we don't turn our shit around right now, that's where we're going to be going. So we'll see. Dion says, we got some soft players. Remember when they said they didn't need to yell at each other? Well, someone has to rip you a new asshole to get you in line. Can't take it the wrong way. Yeah.
You know what? This reminds me of the Hard Knocks episode a couple years ago with the Cleveland Browns when Jarvis Landry is in there like, everybody's hurt. Everybody's tired. Nobody gives a shit. When you come in this building, you do your fucking job, right? And he laced into him. And that's what a leader does. And so I absolutely agree. George Kittle, he's the goofy guy. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's the aloof guy. Like, who's the hard ass on this team? There's no hard ass on this team. And I don't care if it has to be Trent Williams. I don't care if it has to be Deebo Samuel. I don't care whoever it is. Somebody's got to do it. And I feel like I can see it in his eyes. When Ayuk gets enough status, I feel like he would be the one that would be able to do it.
Yeah.
But it has to start somewhere because it's unacceptable. And there's nobody that, even on defense, who's the guy? I just don't see it.
The only person I can think of is Mooney, and he's new. He's new to this team.
Yep.
Wano says,
Bosa's not that guy.
No. Soft-spoken.
Guy. Yep.
Wano Matthews says, when Trey went down and folks wanted Jimmy back, I said two things has to happen for Trey to truly develop. They either win a Super Bowl or they fall flat on their face.
Well, their face about to hit the fucking ground. That's for sure.
Yeah. Celts Chronicles, Ayuk's route running has evolved tremendously. Real talk. Can't wait to see all the playmakers fully utilized. Hopefully we get to see it one day.
Yep. Like I said earlier at the beginning of the show, I absolutely think that Ayuk is actually the best wide receiver on this team.
Yeah. Wano Matthews win the Super Bowl and Jimmy gets paid. Some other guys leave and let them retool or finally realize Jimmy ain't it. I mean, they realized Jimmy ain't it when they moved up for Trey and when they tried to get Matt Stafford, but they're just stuck in this fucked up position where he has to be it. He has to.
And when they lowered his salary to 6.5.
Yeah. Super chat from Freddie Gonzalez. Thank you, Freddie. Is the season over?
The gel is starting to jiggle. That's for sure. It's almost over. The fat lady's going like this.
Yeah.
Trying to warm up.
It's
almost over.
With how shitty the NFC is, I'm going to say no. But the best case scenario out of all of this is the 49ers make the playoffs, get into a deep run. But if by some miracle they make it to the Super Bowl, whoever they face is going to absolutely annihilate them. It's going to be just like today. Just like today. If they face Kansas City, Buffalo, whoever top AFC team is, there's no match. The gap between the top teams in the NFL and even competitive teams is so large this year that unless the 49ers have every single player healthy, I just can't see it. I've seen a few people. Sorry, go ahead.
If the 49ers somehow made it to the Super Bowl, Buffalo would beat them. Kansas City would beat them. Cincinnati would probably beat them. After that, it's probably a conversation. But it's just the things that we do well don't translate to keep up with these other teams. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, dude, even getting out of the NFC is going to be a challenge. I don't think we match up well with Philadelphia. I think they bushwhack us every day.
Yeah. Mobile quarterbacks always give us problems. I've seen a few people bring up Ndamukong Suh. Do you think the 49ers should sign him?
I mean, it's worth a flyer at the very least. And in terms of run stuffing,
I agree.
The more games Eric Armstead misses, the more I'm concerned. The more that I think that plantar fasciitis is going to stick around. Like I said, that's a long-term injury. It could be season long. If he doesn't come back, then what are you really doing? Obviously, the 49ers are pretty soft up the middle, as today showed. So they couldn't stop the run to save their life. You had a first-time starter that just basically tore them a new one. And, you know, Edwards-Helaire was good today in a backup role. I mean, they just walked all over us. The Chiefs had over 500 yards of offense.
Yeah.
Something has to change. You got to do something.
All right, guys. With that said, I think we're going to wrap this show up. It was a shitty performance. Hey, hopefully this was the wake-up call the 49ers needed on both sides of the ball. their loss to Arizona at home last year was the wake-up call they needed. I was hoping last week against the Falcons was that wake-up call they needed, but clearly it wasn't. Now, I understand this is one of the best teams in the NFL, but hopefully they still are able to take this ass whooping and say, what the hell do we have to do to make sure that this doesn't happen again? Next week against the Rams, hopefully they're able to get their schedule back on track. We'll be here to preview it later in the week. We appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. But before we go, I almost forgot. We got to thank today's sponsor. Shout out to Mybookie. Guys, if you haven't started making money yet, you got to start right now. Let me throw this up on the screen where you guys know. But we all predict games all the time. We all make money. Might as well make some real money by picking these games with Mybookie. We know football. We can bet single game spreads, money lines, multiple game parlays, which, by the way, the Bucs totally screwed my parlay. I cannot believe they lost to the Panthers. It is what it is. You might be asking me, Zach, how the hell do I get started? It's super simple. You just go to Mybookie.ag, sign up with promo code Hive when you sign up, and you can get your first deposit of $50 or more instantly matched. Secure that double deposit bonus. Again, that's promo code Hive, HIVE, to get your first deposit all the way up to $1,000, dollar for dollar matched. Mybookie is a proven sports book that makes it simple to bet and simple to win. So make this your winning season exclusively at Mybookie. Did it cut out?
How?
Did I cut out?
You did the same thing you did the last 2 times. It got all digitized and super fast. Every
it's
time.
Something with YouTube. I don't know what it is.
You know what you need to do is you need to record like B-roll and then throw that shit up in the middle. Just play a video of you doing the ad read. I can't believe that. I was sitting here going like, are you kidding me?
I have it recorded, but for some reason it won't let me upload it. Like I think it's too long. So maybe if I do like 2 videos, I don't know. We'll figure it out one day or another. But man,
yeah.
Let's get out of here. Let's have a good night. Let's go have some dinner. Matt, take us out.
It was a tough one today. I want to shout out real quick. I want to shout out the Philadelphia Phillies. Congratulations to you guys for going to the World Series. It's a painful end to my season, but at least we beat the Dodgers. So there was something to that. First season with season tickets. I had a blast this year. It's a tough sports day for me. We start out with that. We end with the 49ers just laying an absolute egg against the Chiefs. Hopefully we'll be back against the Rams. Kyle Shanahan owns Sean McVay. So that trend hopefully can continue. It's going to be a tough one. I'd like to see more Christian McCaffrey incorporated. So thank you as always for joining us. Let's keep our heads up, guys. It's not the end of the season yet. It's only week 7. There are a lot of things that can happen between now and the end of the year. So with that being said, thank you as always. And until next time, go Niners.